All right.
Perfect.
Audio.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Too many streams today. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, we have lots of live streams going today, everybody. So good afternoon. We're a couple minutes just past the hour here, so we apologize for delay. My name is Bill Corcoran, and my colleague Rob Long, you're meeting right now, and he'll jump in at parts. We'll kind of flip-flop back and forth. We're both coordinators in our Learning Technologies department, and what that means is we are both teachers in a leadership role at the board. So we're here to support students, supporting staff, and in this case, you, as part of this virtual transition that you're encountering on right now. So welcome. Thank you for joining this journey. We will kind of go over a little bit of our overview today of what we're going to be covering. Some of it may be a little quicker than others, so we totally understand that. We'll be following up with the slide deck at the end. You'll be able to receive a link to be able to access the slide deck. A lot of this information will continue to be supported through your virtual school, so look for information that has already and will continuously come out from them. And at the bottom of this screen that you're seeing right now, and we'll make it a bit bigger in just a few moments, but there is a website URL that you can type in, tinyurl.com. So you can put this into your browser on a separate page, /OCSB, and that is case sensitive, so uppercase OCSB tech questions, no spaces, tinyurl.com /OCSB tech questions. And we will do our best to answer these questions during the live stream, as well as near the end, time permitting. We will do our best to get to everybody. So you can see that our session breakdown is we're going to set some context as to what this transition into virtual means during a pandemic in 2020 and with thousands of students moving. So I'll pass it over to Rob at that point. And then we'll kind of talk about your child's OCSBstudent.ca Gmail account and what that means and what it means to workflow and words and platforms such as Hapara that you might have heard of. And then we'll kind of look at it from the parent portal digital forms perspective as well. And of course, answer some questions along the way. So before we do that, of course, our board respectfully acknowledges that we are located on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded Indigenous territory of the Algonquin peoples, on whose territory we pray, learn, play, and work. And amongst our busy schedule, you're taking time to join us today. So again, thank you so much. It's also important for us to come together as a community during these difficult times. We're so busy with our family, with our children, with our jobs that we'll take a moment to pause, and then I'll lead us in prayer before we get started. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God of hope, comfort and restore all who suffer in body, mind, or spirit. May they know the power of your healing love, and make us willing agents of your compassion. Strengthen us as we share in making people whole. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to pass this over, and he can introduce himself now. This is my colleague, Rob Long. I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up today. We don't have a huge audience. We'll be able to answer all your questions. So that's good. So once again, don't forget, at the bottom of each slide, and we'll remind you occasionally, there's a link. And if you go to the link, it'll pop up a little form and you can type in your questions. We're watching those come in live. So if anybody would like to just try and do that, pop in there, make sure it's all working for us, that'd be great. And we'll let you know. One of the big changes that happened this year, of course, with the pandemic and COVID is that we launched an alternative learning platform through virtual academies. So we had about 12,000 students shift into that, maybe a few more than that. And it's been a huge shift for us. So I just want to make everybody aware that it wasn't simple. And, I hear lots of media reports and things, and parents are angry, some of them, and teachers are frustrated, some of them. But this was not a simple process for us to take on. It's heavily manual, actually. We have software that runs our boards, but making a shift between schools is a manual effort. And so that's what we had to do. We had to set up new virtual schools and move kids. And all that movement was done manually. Because it's not everybody moving. You just have to pick this one and this one and this one and this one and move them to here. And when you have many thousands, it's a huge effort. So I as we go into this new mode for your kids, possibly you're going to be dealing with a whole new environment, and just be patient. It is new for everyone, and we will work things out. And it just may take a little bit of time. We learned a lot of lessons the first time. Hopefully, you're going to be ready to go tomorrow. That is our goal for the kindergarten. So hopefully, we attain that. But we did have to change everything that we do. So how we deliver to students now, all using technology, it's very different for the students, for you as parents receiving this, and for staff. How we actually assess and understand what our kids are really learning and how much they learned. It's again, they're not in front of us as teachers anymore, so we have to change everything we do, and we do have to rely on the parents, especially for the younger kids. How we communicate, how we do attendance, how we deliver secure environments, and how we maintain control of a class that's now all online. Again, super new to teachers. So just support your teacher and help them out, because it's a huge shift for them. A lot of work went into making that shift. So just be understanding of that. So Bill, next slide. As parents, you're jumping into a whole new environment as well. So you've got a brand new teacher probably. Your kids are going to have all new kids in a class. So they're going to be dealing with a whole new set of, a whole new social environment for them. And it's an online environment, probably one they're not really used to at these young ages. So that's going to be new to them. So it's going to take a little time for them to get adjusted to that. It's not the same type of social interaction that they will have been used to in a kindergarten class. The attendance and behaviors and other things are much more difficult for a teacher to work with remotely. So just be understanding of that and support those teachers in those. If you're not going to be showing up or anything, then it's good to let the teacher know in advance. You're going to need to have access to technology. So everything is being done pretty much through Google Meets. And so that's how we do the synchronous parts of this. And if it's not synchronous, then most teachers are using something we call Hapara, and it will lay out the content of what's going to be taught. And it'll be the one place that you can always go to, and we're going to show that to you so that you know what's coming up with the kids in their learning environments. If there's issues, and there's always issues with technology, and coming from a tech department, we understand that very well, then your teacher is your first line of support in this. If you have board-owned devices, then there is the ability to actually take those in or swap them and do things like that. So there are some options there. What we do ask, though, is if you run into troubles, you would never just burst into a classroom. If it was a live classroom, if there's anything going on, you would respectfully ask for a meeting with the teacher and then deal with that outside of the classroom time. So we ask you to consider that as well. These classrooms could have anywhere from 20 to 30 kids in them. And if you're going to ask about problems during the class, it's going to disrupt the class for everybody. So just be aware of that and be sensitive to that. So again, if you have questions about the learning as well and what's going on in the classroom synchronous time is not the time to deal with that. Just wait till after and send the teacher a message, and she will or he will get back to you. All right. And on technology, you may have brought your own devices. We're recommending Chromebooks that have flip touch capabilities because we do release Android apps as part of the learning environment, and those are touch based. We also recommend keyboards mostly because there are keyboarding type activities, and we found that for adults and students, it's easier to use a separate keyboard from the screen-based keyboards of a tablet. If you have a tablet with a keyboard, then it works pretty much as well, not quite as well. There's some advantages having a Chromebook in the learning environment that is Google-based, which is where we are. If you do need support, then the teacher is there for best effort. If it's a board device, then we can go a little bit deeper by bringing that device into the board. Otherwise, if you bring your own, you're kind of on your own on that front. But a lot of the teachers are very tech savvy and might be able to offer you some advice. Because you're going to be delivering video like this in a full meet, it is recommended that you look at your speeds If you have multiple people, maybe you have multiple kids, maybe you're working at home too, and you're all on video meets, it does take up a reasonable amount of bandwidth. So we're looking at 10 megabits a second per person is a good guideline to go by, and that's on a download speed. You can test this by you just going into Google and saying Google speed test, and it'll come up with a little blue button usually, and you can just push it, and it'll tell you what your download speeds are and your upload speeds. Your upload speed doesn't have to be quite as good as your download, but because you are transmitting video, it does take some of that bandwidth as well. So that could get choppy on the other end. The download speed, you're going to want something in the 10 megabit per person who's using video calls. All right, if you have any questions, again, hit that link at the bottom there. You got to type that in, tinyurl.com/OCSB tech questions, and the OCSB is all caps.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. It's always good to get that context of the big transition that's happened. And it's not easy on our families if something's happening in their moment with their child if they go in, but it is a different workflow and a different process. So we're all in it together. We're trying to make sure everybody's feeling supported, and that's why we're putting on this session for you today. Okay, so right now, I just see that pop up. I can see if we can move away. There we go. So this slide that I'm showing is a link to our website called samaritans.ocsb.ca. And what this website is, it is a resource for all the OCSB community based on our digital citizenship platform and program. It originally started as a support to students K-12, which started at 5 lessons per year, but obviously wasn't only 5 lessons. It was a start of a conversation that your classroom teacher would have with you and with your students, your child, and continue that through the year as things happened, obviously being very responsive in the moment. But I'm going to, if you did type in a different browser right now, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to show you samaritans.ocsb.ca. And again, it's linked in the slide deck. So when we share it afterwards, you'll be able to click on it. It's going to open up a website that looks like this, and it is public facing. And so you can go on. It is shared in some of our monthly newsletters with our Catholic Parents Association, so our CSPUG. We have a good partnership with them, so they've been promoting this as well. And what you're seeing here is our main website for Samaritans on the digital road. And as I scroll over to the right and I hover over the word parents, I'm going to be clicking on the student use of technology in the OCSB option. And this is truly going to kind of be our agenda for today, for my parts anyways, where we're going to kind of review our student accounts, talk a little bit about this, the G Suite for Education, which is Rob will pop in there and talk about how that's a bit different. It is different than just a typical Gmail account that you would sign up for. We'll dig into the student portals, which is a lifeline for our students and accessing curriculum and supports for them. And then Chrome profiles. There's Hapara, like I mentioned, and we're going to talk a little bit about our accounts and how we do support them in the digital citizenship curriculum by helping them use the tools correctly, but we also do obviously have some restrictions and firewalls on our accounts as they go through our system to support them best. So I'll flip back to the slide deck and go to our next page. And right here, you might have already encountered this before you made the switch to virtual, but we'll just review it quickly anyways. So as soon as your child is registered in our school system, they do have a Google account that is assigned to them. You may not get it right away. You usually get it once you started school with your classroom teacher, but it does follow the pattern of firstname.lastname@ocsbstudent.ca. And the password that is associated with it would have to come from your classroom teacher if this is the first time that you are encountering it. If you ever need the password reset or to be reset for the first time so they can give you that password, you're going to find a pattern of suggestions from myself and Rob about it is a communication with your classroom teacher. They're going to be a point of contact for a lot of this. This is why we did ask that it's timely when you ask them, because if it's a support from our end, or they need to field these emails or questions or reset a password, typically they can't do it right in the middle of class, so they'll need that opportunity. So when you get this, the OCSB student.ca Google account, and here's a little bit about the password. You do need to touch base with your classroom teacher. And it is important because it's an OCSB a student account, and we need to support them the best we can. It is a board-owned account, and so therefore the ability for the classroom teacher to be in the know about their password, to support them in the moment, is a partnership we require. And typically the teacher might ask you and your child for their a favorite animal or a hobby or something, and a number and a character, something that they would remember. That can be done on a case-by-case basis. So that's just, again, a partnership with your classroom teacher and communication. The one thing I will mention as part of our support for your child and security-wise in the K-6 scope, their Gmail accounts are fenced in. And what I mean by fenced in is that to help support our students, they do not have the ability to receive emails, even from you, even their parents, from an external email, or to send out to external emails as well. So they can email within their class, and they can email, obviously, to and from their classroom teacher. But that fenced-in approach is something that we have at the K-6 level, unless it's specifically been asked or requested by the classroom teacher, in which we would look at it a case-by-case basis, but at least at that point, everybody would be in the know. So I'm going to transition quickly to Rob. And Rob, maybe you can just talk to the group quickly about the difference between a typical Gmail and what it means to be in the Google for Education domain.
Sure. So we signed up for Google quite a few years ago now, maybe 11, I don't know. It was a long time ago. And that was very, very new. But a couple years in, we did work with the Ministry of Education, their lawyers, and some other school boards. And now we have standard agreements with Google that we sign just on our data protection, just to ensure, because Google has some different agreements, and then we added to those for education. And just to ensure that when we remove data and manage data within their environment, it's truly being done, to ensure we're not being scanned and do other things like that. So we do have some binding legal agreements with them that are quite particular about how our data is handled. So we get that question asked, and that is what we did as a province in Ontario, is develop a slightly stronger agreement with them to ensure our data is being handled properly.
Thanks, Rob. And I will just point out to the group here on the Samaritan site, there is the privacy agreement, and that just also goes in with the no ads, the data, the secure servers, and the policy. And so if you needed to access that, it is on that site as well. So continuing on, so one of the biggest things we're talking about today was basically the nitty-gritty of what it means to come into the virtual program and being able to do the basics. There's a lot of tools that you might encounter with your child, but for now we're basically saying, well, how do we set ourselves up for success? Meaning, how do I get logged into a Google Meet? What does it look like to use a Google Chrome browser? And what does that mean with the student portal with all those access points? So I'm going to bring over, you might see it slide onto your screen right now. This is a student. This is a fake student, student 17. And so we use this fake student to model in sessions such as this. And what you see is the elementary student portal. Now this, when your child logs in to their Google Chrome account, their OCSB student.ca account on a Chromebook or on a different device, a PC or a Mac, this should pop up automatically for them. But for you, you would not be able to access this through just your account. Your child would have to be logged in. But just in case it didn't pop up on your child's screen when they logged in, I will show you just one of our school websites. So this is the Guardian Angels website. And if your child ever needed to get to the student portal and it didn't pop up for them in that moment, there are many ways, but this is one of the ways in which they could locate, or you could help them locate the school website, and then they could click on student portal, but not if you're logged in to your account as a parent. So at this point here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between just being logged into Google and being logged into a Google Chrome browser or a window. And so what you're seeing right here is a couple things. I want you to notice the difference. This is just a symbol. There's the for the profile for student 17. You can see that it's an image of a block of cheese or a sliver of cheese. And I'm looking up here. So you see the three dots in this whole gray bar. I'm currently in the Google Chrome browser. If your child logs into a Chromebook, it would have the Google Chrome browser on it and would pop up for them to log in. That's a default. But if you're using a Mac or a PC, it may not be your default browser yet. So we would encourage you to download the Google Chrome browser. And then there's multiple pieces to keeping things separate, because we know these devices are most likely going to be shared amongst your family members, depending on your situation of the devices that you have. If it's a Chromebook, not too bad in terms of logging out and logging in with different accounts, but we will come to a different scenario later on with a feature of Hapara that we use called highlights. And so I want you to look and see what the difference is here and try to, we do have a video of this as well. So if I'm going to show you too quickly, there is a video that we've created for keeping your Google Chrome profiles separate. So meaning it could be one of both your children and your accounts. And so up at the top here, I'm in Google Chrome and I've signed in. So I'm in the browser. I'm not in my Google account, which is you'll see a little bit lower after. I can toggle between different accounts here, and I could click on student 18, which is another student, and another box pops up, and I'm actually keeping my accounts separate. So I had student 17 and student 18. When I clicked on that, I would have now two Google Chrome browser sessions windows open. And so right now I've kept both those accounts separate. You will see this is a common problem, though, is some people would be logged into Google Chrome and they might go here, whether it's another sibling or a parent, click on this and then add another account here. So I'm still in my Google Chrome browser, but then I'm switching between Google accounts. And this is what we're going to recommend later with highlights, that we try to veer away from logging in and out of the accounts, or going up to a browser and opening up another one and doing some your own Gmails, some so forth. So this one is specifically to an OCSB student.ca, and it's one that we manage at that piece. So I just want to hold this there for a second, that this is being logged into Google, and up here is being logged into Google Chrome browser for a session, and we would call this a window. So there's a video on this, but there is a distinct difference, and I want you to note that when we come back and talk a little bit about our Hapara highlights in just a little bit. So I'm going to flip back here to the student portal, and I'll ask Rob to jump on to talk a little bit about our portals.
Thanks, Bill. So we have a student portal for K-6 and 7-12. And for you guys, one of the things we've done is when your students most were at school in brick and mortar, most of the kindergarten classes, they do have to request it, but they would have the students log in using a QR code. So this will be a little card that's created for each individual student, and they would just walk up to their Chromebook in the classroom if they needed to get on and use something like Zorbits to do math practice. And they would just show it to the computer, and then the computer would log them into their account so that the teacher could monitor the progress and things. So your students might be used to that. So now you're home, they probably don't know their password. So you're going to be responsible for that piece. We don't expect the kids necessarily to be able to enter their passwords until grade 2. But having said that, I've worked with several kindergarten teachers who have taught their children their passwords. So it is a skill, certainly, that they can develop in kindergarten or grade 1. Sometimes it's a struggle for all students to get to that level before grade 2. So it's something you can decide if you want to work on it or not. On the portal, once a student logs in, it should by default pop up. You can access it through a website, like your school website or things like that. But it's going to pop up with some items that are there to support the child's learning and to support the curriculum that we're offering. As you go across the top are our core productivity tools. So one is Hapara, which we've mentioned already has access to all of the content that's being prepared by the teacher for your student. And then there's Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Meet, Sites, so all the Google suite. Below that, you're going to see some creativity and design. You can see we've broken it down by category. So they may be doing things like learning how to make a book with Book Creator, or maybe they're going to edit some video, or maybe not in kindergarten, but they might use some of those. But for kindergarten, those are more, we start to get into those when we have full readers and things. So maybe grade 2, grade 3, we start that. If you go down, though, there's Orbits for math, and then you'll see some of our French support. So there will be some like Radio Canada will have some French programming for very young kids. So there are a few in there that they'll access. And then for the literacy, which is a really big component along with the math, there's quite a few resources for young kids in there, starting from Raz Kids, which is a leveled reader, and Abdo Digital, which has some reading books. So does Bookflix. And then Sora is a full library for kids. So you can come onto here with your student. They will have to be signed into their Chrome. This is a restricted page for them to access. So you'd have to know their password to get onto this page. But in the library there, Sora, it's a full online library. So if you're looking for books for kids to read along, or even there are some read out louds in there that you want your kids to access, certainly sit down and grab a book. Below that, there's additional resources, from video resources to news like Info Bits for young kids, to Encore, which has lots of video, especially around Canadian content. So there's lots of things on here to support the learning.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. And one of the key things that I heard there as well is that another reason why your child would need to be signed into the Chrome browser, just because a lot of the access to these softwares and into the portal would be through being signed in there as well. So that's perfect. And we're going to look at transitioning ourselves back to the slide deck for a second. And I'm going to bring student 17 out of the view for a second, and then continue. So student portals, we covered. Google Meet. So that's a big thing. So if you're with Google Meet, aside from needing to find the link on where to enter, there's nothing that you need to do to request to be invited. By being part of the classroom, your child would be invited from your classroom teacher to be able to access the Meet. There are a couple ways that you can access a Meet link, and we're going to show you one of the simplest ways. So in a second, I'm going to bring back student 17. And the key piece here is that the student portal plays a key role again. So welcome back, the student 17. And at the top, Rob already mentioned the key sort of, all these softwares are on here are important. A lot of them on the top row are just ones that are clicked on from K to 6 on a regular basis, so very productivity tools. So if you log in and your child logs into their account that morning and they need to get on the Google Meet for their class, they would scroll right across, right to Google Meet, and click on the Google Meet icon or the words, and you will see that on this right now, there are some events on this page that are at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4:15. If there was one at 9 o'clock in the morning, it would probably not show because it's in the past. You're also not seeing events for tomorrow. So what we really like is there's a little bit less confusion for our families and for our students. And especially if you're supporting them, that if they come in and click on the Meet link on the student portal, I'm going to see that this is the link that I should do today. And if I click on this, because it's saying now, I'm going to click on it, and what you're going to be prompt as a family is I could mute my microphone, so when I log in, it would be muted. There's also the ability to mute your camera, so my camera is off. We also have, and a lot of families and students are looking at this, I can also change my background, so I could blur it a little bit. You can see that it's actually making it a little bit blurry. It's not perfect, but it's definitely making a big change in the background of being able to see things clearly. And there's different icons, like I could, let's see, where's one of my favorites? I don't know, you're sitting in an office. So like you can see different things. It's not perfectly contoured, but it does take away the background for your, so if your child is in the kitchen, they could do that. So then, of course, once they're ready, they could click Join Now. Your teacher would be creating all these protocols. So when they entered, what do they need to do? So look for more direction from your teacher about the sort of classroom management piece of it. So that's how you would access a Meet on the day of. But what does that mean if I wanted to make sure that that morning I already had a link there for my child? So all these invites actually do lie in the calendar. So we don't need your child to do there, but just to know that if I wanted to make sure that there was one tomorrow or the next day, and if there wasn't, I needed to maybe send an email to my classroom teacher just to make sure that tomorrow, being Wednesday, I had a link to go to, and it wasn't last minute. If they click on calendar, you can see that this student could see these ones on the Google Meet link, but they could not see this event for tomorrow. So if you clicked on calendar, I have it in week view. It might be defaulted to a month view or day view, so you keep an eye up here from that piece for your calendar. But it could be accessed this way. But for as a parent myself, I would just want to ensure that there are some events in there that your child could get on in the future. But the recommended way is to get into Google Meet via this icon right here. I don't think I'm going to pause there for a second. Rob, about for Meet, is there any questions coming through? No, we're good. Okay. So these are a couple icons here, and this is on the slide deck for some things that I've already just spoke about. So your classroom teacher will talk about the ability to use the chat or the ability to put their hand up. There's a feature on there now. So classroom management's on the classroom teacher. We do help with suggestions, but do look for them for those routines as you venture into the kindergarten learning environment, the virtual learning environment. All right. So Rob mentioned that there wasn't any questions on the Google Meet yet or other ones to answer. So I'm going to take my Google Meet hat off and put on my Hapara hat. So there's one, there's the other. We're flipping on to Hapara. So we do realize that at the kindergarten level, that this may look different than a grade 4 student or 6 student or a student in grade 9 or 12. So if you have other children at home in different grades, how you can use these tools it looks different by classroom teacher. It also looks different by panel, meaning is it kindergarten, primary, junior, and so forth. And it definitely looks different by age level. And so how the examples that I give today and that Rob speaks to in his examples, it might be in Hapara more of a resource for parents so you can support your child at home during these asynchronous. So asynchronous when your child is not on the screen with your classroom teacher. Maybe it's something you can follow up, maybe learning letter sounds or so forth. But there might be something where they might get you to do a little scavenger hunt for shapes, and I'll show you an example of that, and then maybe post a picture into a slide deck at some point. But in a lot of times at the kindergarten level, the teacher is going to use their time when your child is on to work with them during that synchronous time. A couple things you may encounter from your classroom teachers is kind of two words. So one is Hapara, I guess, and then the other one is Google Drive. And in Hapara, there's a little family called Workspace, and I'll show you that. And the way to get there is through the student dashboard. But your classroom teacher may also share a file to you in your child's Google Drive. And it's key to, one, either ask for clarification. By knowing our great educators in this panel, they will either say, I want you to go to the Hapara Workspace, or I want you to go to the Google Class folder in their Google Drive. So I'm going to show you what that means right now, and I'm going to bring back our friend student 17 here. Okay, so we'll start with Hapara and looking at student dashboard and Workspace. So like I mentioned, I'm going to click on the Workspace and student dashboard icon, and there's going to be a lot of files in there. At the kindergarten level, though, maybe only a couple workspaces. So this one may be looking a little bit busier to you when we go on. But again, your child being in kindergarten, it may not be as populated as I'm going to show you here. But I'll click on it to let you know what we're seeing. Let it load in. There we go. And you can see that what you're seeing immediately is Workspaces, and this is where your child's supporting information, maybe some resources or videos to support the parents. We're going to find that there. And basically, a workspace is an environment that maybe by theme or maybe by subject or maybe by week. Maybe there's a workspace that your child's teacher might say, okay, this is the week of this to this. This is where we're going to find anything from math to science to literacy, and then your French teacher might also have that too. So this is what you're seeing is Workspaces, and this is for all your classes. And again, if you have older children as well, you may be going through. So this won't say CEC training. The CEC is the Catholic Education Center, so that's our board office. But it might say math, it might say language, and it would say your teacher name and code and so forth. So you could toggle between it. But the key thing, if there's only a couple at the kindergarten level, most likely they're going to show up on this main page. On the left-hand side, it's handy, but again, not so applicable to the kindergarten level. There's not a lot of assignments that are actually due at the kindergarten level, but there is the option. So if you do see it, it might be something that the teacher asks you to go on, like I said, a scavenger hunt, take a picture of some shapes and put it in a Google slide deck that they've provided. And maybe they want that by Friday. So they may just tell you that, or they might put a to-do date on it, or they might not at all need it submitted. So again, so many scenarios, ask your classroom teacher. And so I'm going to reset to Workspaces, and I'm going to show you one called the Virtual Parent Live Stream Workspace, just so you can kind of get a sense of what a workspace means in the language of Hapara. So as it loads in, it can look different, again, based on the classroom teacher and how they're using it. There can be a maximum of 4 columns. Right now we only see 3, and this one's empty. You could see 1 or 2 columns. You could see 3 columns like I'm seeing right now. And sometimes the words change, but the default is goals, resources, and evidence. Sometimes they're called learning goals. Sometimes the classroom teacher changes it to supporting resources or a different word that makes sense to their class. And over here, evidence might be show your learning, something that might be more at the level of the child in their class, of the students. But the key thing here is there might be some information here that the classroom teachers put in here. Here's a helpful document for letter sounds. I know there's no document in there. I was just putting that in as an example. So you could go in as a parent and kind of say, oh, this is what I can do to support my child at home based on what the classroom is working on that week. Down here, if the classroom teacher did ask you to do some sort of task, I did allude to an assignment kind of like a shaped scavenger hunt. So this most likely, from what we've heard from our colleagues that are teaching kindergarten in the virtual schools, is that sometimes they wouldn't get their students to go to this workspace during the synchronous part, during the live learning part. It might be something, like I said, you as a parent might go to afterwards, or them after that synchronous part. So here's a video that is a shape song. So maybe they might ask you to, okay, now we're gonna, take a break for 15 minutes, act like it's their recess, and then maybe on the way back before everybody comes back together, you could watch the shape song with them or anything like that. This is just an example on here of if your teacher did ask you to follow up on something and it was in the workspace. This is just an example of how it might look like in a Hapara workspace. And so you can see that this is a task that the teacher has assigned. It doesn't have to have a start date or an end date in terms of a due date on the side that we saw. But if the classroom teacher would always give a little bit more context, probably in their classroom and when they're meeting online, and say, I want you to go to your workspace and we're going to go to this piece right here. And it might be this assignment. Go to the red card called K task. And I should have typed out kindergarten, but I didn't. But the teacher would be very explicit on where they wanted to go. And if you and your child clicked on the word start, I want you to notice that this one is individual evidence. And what that means is when I click on start, it's going to be a copy just for myself. And myself meaning the child that is logged in. And it might take a few seconds to make that copy. But here I've put together a shape scavenger hunt. So maybe your child's been challenged to go around the house, or next time you're out for a walk or for a stretch break with your child, or getting some fresh air, to take a picture of certain shapes that they see that maybe they're focusing on in class. So they might say, okay, we've been talking a lot about triangles, and they might talk about lives. So if I was asking Rob, was my student, like, what, tell me about a triangle, Rob, you say, oh, it might have 3 sides. And you were like, we're going through that. Okay, when you go out later, I want you to take a picture of that, and then have mom or dad or guardian, whoever's supporting you, brother, sister, to take a picture, and then be able to upload that picture into a slide deck. So that's the common thing we get at the kindergarten level, is kind of documenting your learning, because a lot of it might be arts and crafts where you've created something in front of you with toothpicks and marshmallows or plasticine, or created something I drew on paper, because your classroom teacher might get you to take a picture of it just in front, because not everything has to be digital, and we encourage a good balance. In this case, the meeting, of course, is digital. And then how do you get that into the slide deck? Because everything you could be drawing with pencil and paper. And then whether it's on a phone, you could log into Google Drive and so forth with different accounts. But on the slide deck of itself, there is an insert image option, and you can see the options here. You could even take it by camera on your device, and you could hold up the paper in front of it. So that's an easy way. There's also Google Drive if it's in their Google Drive, or you can upload it from the computer. So there is some options there that we could spend a lot of time on that feature, but that is something that we do have the option of getting images in there, and that's a common feature request at the kindergarten level. So in that, when you're ready, your teacher may say click submit. They may just say the teacher, whether you submit or not, can access that slide deck and give and see the learning that's taking place. So no worries there. Here it's the same task. I just put it in a different color because it says group evidence. If your teacher ever assigned something that said group evidence, it would be something that you would work on collaboratively with other children in the class. So maybe not the whole class, but maybe some students as well. Again, and not a common request at the kindergarten level, but I wanted to point it out to you. And again, if you went out and you took a picture of something, or your child created something in Google Drive, if there was just this empty box here that the teacher had for them with instructions that said link something, you could link it here, but you could attach by clicking on Google Drive and attaching it in there for your child as well. So from that standpoint, this is Hapara Workspace, a quick overview, but it's just, again, a way to house everything together, namely at this level for the parents to be able to support their child with learning resources. Now, I did mention that there at the kindergarten level, there is also and there's this at every level, but teachers tend to use Hapara Workspace a lot at a deeper level as you progress in grades. And I'm going to click on Google Drive. And Google Drive, if your teacher said it's in your Google Drive class folder, when you log in, the child should see their subject and the teacher and the year, which helps. And in this case, CEC Training 2 was one that I share the document in there. So again, this is not connected to Workspace, but there's also a link up to that file in there as well. And my student name was attached to it. So just when your teacher gives you instructions, just make sure if you're understanding or ask for clarification, whether it's Workspace or in their Google Drive folder as well. So that's a big piece. Okay. Any questions there, Rob, from that, or anything you think I missed? No questions? Okay, I'm just noticing the time, so I'm going to keep on flipping through. So before I mentioned about a feature called Hapara Highlights, and Hapara is obviously a way to get a program, a software that we use to support our teachers being able to get content and learning for our students, our children in our class. One, to make sure they can open up links and access everything in Google that we give them, or any learning materials that they need. Part of that is the digital citizenship component, which we talked about, which is Samaritan. So the student also needs to learn how to collaborate in Google Docs. They also need to be on task on a computer, which is even more difficult. In a brick and mortar classroom, I mean, socially distant this year, of course, the teacher is able to see all their students, and before used to be able to walk around and use some proximity just to make sure that they could support that their students of being on task. In a digital environment, we also have this great tool called Highlights. And what that means is I'll bring in the teacher view. And I want you to I'll bring in student 17 back. And I just want you to notice how all these tabs are open right now. I'm currently on the student portal in student 17. You can see that there's just lots of tabs. Especially at the young level when we don't have those QR codes. I'm just going to bring that back up my screen. Let's see if I can get that back. There we go. It's harder to help support them. So wouldn't it be easy if the classroom teacher could just open up a link for a student? Wouldn't it be easy if they could just send a message to a student? Or even at that moment, just like we would say in class typically, everybody, can you put down your books? Or at the kindergarten level, it's 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, or hands on top. That means stop. So sometimes on computer, it's so easy to touch the keyboard. So there is a feature here that we use. It called Hapara Highlights, and I want to direct you to the top here, first of all, where this is the ability to send a message, to share links, to guide browsing, which for teacher language, that means I can either share some documents so that they can't go in different parts and go to their Google Drive or go, to Google at the moment. And here's the kind of hands on top, that means stop moment, where we can pause their screens. Especially in virtual, we might say, okay, everybody take your hands off the keyboard for a second. And if so, the classroom teacher, as part of their management, might pause the screen. So this is truly what the Highlights tool is meant to be for and to use. But we also have the ability, in this case, and I'm just going to click on student 17. I'm going to flip it over. There's a couple questions going on there. So I'm going to see if it's this one. Oh, there we go. It's loaded in. So we have the ability as a classroom teacher between Monday and Friday, 8 to 4, only if the student is logged into the csbstudent.ca account. That's why we talked about Google Chrome profiles before. Keeping everything separate, your work separate, keeping all the different accounts separate, where between 8 and 4, like I said, Monday to Friday, the teacher might be able to see the tabs, and they can, for example, here, see the tabs that are open in that OCSB board-owned browser, and that they are, in this case, on the student portal because it's bolded. There is some misconception, and this is part of the process of doing sessions like this, is to be transparent with our parent community, is that there is the ability to see the current screens, but it's not live. It is a snapshot, a static snapshot. And what that means is about every 5 seconds, it might take a little bit. You're not seeing the student cursor move. You're not seeing anything else. What they're seeing is that. So I'm gonna shift the student over here to their workspace, and I'll see about that. And when it comes in at that time for the student, that was about 5 seconds. And it will, if there's a switch, it will switch over. So that's why with Hapara Highlights, and again, a lot of the teachers aren't using this tool unless it's specific, where it's requested that that student needs some support because they're having a hard time staying on task. But typically at the kindergarten level, they have you there, and they're on there, just not browsing the internet. They're just on the Meet learning face-to-face, kind of that component. So that is Hapara Highlights, and there is information that is in the browser, not in the browser, in the newsletter. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. That has been shared or will be shared through the virtual schools as well. So look for information on that, and it's also on our Samaritans site as we come through. So keep on looking for information on that. And the Google Chrome profile video is in our slide deck, and we passed it already. But that is my part for this point, and I will pass it over to Rob, and if there's any questions that have popped up at that time. If not, I'll transition over, and I can keep on screen sharing, Rob, if you want me to.
I'll switch.
You will switch? Okay, I'll stop. Okay, sounds good. I'll get that going.
All right. So, can you see that screen now, Bill?
Yeah, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to stop screen sharing and just make sure that you can. There we go. I think you're in.
All right. I'll just
if you want to go. Yeah, perfect.
All right. So one of the things that we wanted to cover real quick was the parent portal. There we go. I'm just checking it online, and it's a place that we launched in June so that we could get the report cards out to parents online as COVID hit. So we want to make sure you can get there and just are aware of it. We will be adding more and more features into that portal, like forms and other things. But right now, Mostly it's just get the report cards, progress reports, things like that, with some links to other things. That's where you go to check your student information for verification purposes. Things like that are all in there. And it's simple to get there if you haven't done that. You should go and register. And the place that you need to go, and I'll just take you live through there, is to ocsb.ca. So that is our main board website. So go there, and once you're there, there is a pull down for parents. And under the pull down for parents is the parent portal. And that will take you to a page that gives you some answers around parent portal. And because we have a fairly high demand again of parents accessing it, not like in June, we have almost 50,000 parent accounts in now, which is about what we're expecting. It will tell you, one, the link for login is right here. And we're about to release high school report cards on Wednesday, tomorrow. If you have issues, then you can click here to access our form where we're collecting all the issues so we can figure out what's wrong. So if you can't get in, or for some reason your report card's not there, kindergartens were already released. If you switch schools in between, like you guys might have, we had a few issues with the switching of schools, so we'll fix that within the week. But that's a place you can report issues. Now, if you haven't registered, you need to come down just a little bit on the site to where it says register. And when you click that, it'll take you to Compass, and it'll have you actually set up an account, and it requires some personal information so that you can identify as a secured user. So you will have to know the answers to these questions. Most of the issues that we have is that parents can't remember which email they signed up to the school with, or they enter a street number and a street name, or little things like that that cause grief. Sometimes there can be a typo in the name. So for now, you can just fill out the form and let us know. After November and this settles down, you just go back to your home school and let them know if you have any issues after that. So that's registration. And after you've registered and you got the email and everything, then if you ever forget how to get back, just come back to ocsb.ca, go to the parent dropdown, and you can just click login. So this is after your account is set up and you've gotten the email and everything, then that will just log you in. I'm in and out of these a lot when we're testing, so it automatically jumped in. So don't worry about that one. But that's how you're going to go and get into a login page. And that's after you set your account. Now, since I'm on this page, I'm going to show you this real quick. I'm going to go back to one more page, because we're going to cover this on the last slide, basically. If you're on the board main page, then the other piece you may want to go down to is just scroll down to the bottom, because there's a link for the elementary virtual program and the secondary program. So that, if you go into it, will provide all the links that you need to give you your contacts and a bunch of links for information for you on just learning about your program and what to do with it. So it's a great place to go to learn more. So that's right on ocsb.ca. All right, so that was the parent portal and kind of related information. And then the last piece is on digital forms. So we're trying to get more and more forms digitized so that there's no paper transfer. So we started that with report cards, and now we're moving that into more forms. So on the student portal, which you can get to very easily if you go to, let's say, a school website. So if you can't remember how to get there and don't have a bookmark, go to a school website. You can Google that even. And then you can just click the student portal, which is right at the top of all the school websites, whether you're elementary or secondary. And then on this portal, you're going to see the forms portal. So now I cleverly got that ready this time. And here, hopefully it'll switch over. You will see I've logged in as a student this time. So you have to be logged in. This is a secure page. So you need your students' information to get onto this page, like we've shown you. So you have to log into the Chromebook or whatever you're doing, log into the Chrome browser as a student, come here, and then you can click Forms Portal. And we've put the first two most requested forms up, which were the responsible use of technology form and the consent for media. So those are up there and you can sign those off. And if you haven't, we do recommend that you go and do that actually. so that we have a record of these, because we do ask that all students have this signed off each year. So that's my two pieces, and I'm going to give that back to Bill.
Sure, thanks, Rob. And the responsible use agreement for technology that Rob just showed you, you may have seen it in paper form at your school in September, and it has been modified just enough to reflect just the evolving world of education and learning online. So there is pieces in there regarding Google Meet and use of pictures and recording meets at all levels. So this is a form for 7 to 12, but an equivalent is K to 6. And in this case, you would go through and have those conversations with your child. But again, you have to be logged in, like Rob mentioned, to your child's account at this point, and you would have to do it for each child in their own account in this case. And then you would submit it. So even though you may be transitioning to virtual, parents and families, I should say, sorry, whether they've been there already in virtual or moving forward, we are requesting that all virtual students have this form done, even if you've done so, like I said, in brick and mortar schools in September. Perfect. I'll pass it back to you.
All right, so we've got the last slide here, which are some of your supports. So I showed you two of them, which are on ocsb.ca. So you can go directly to our board website to get those. And then it'll have links to all the learning. And if you like, we have a million videos on how to do stuff on our how-to for parents. So you can go there. And then if you need more support, or you're not finding you're getting all the information you need, then the parents have banded together with CSPA. And that association gives you a lot more support. They give out regular tech tips and things like that, monthlies. They have a monthly newsletter. So there's lots of stuff in there to give you more connection into our school board and more support as a parent. They have regular meetings online. They have guest speakers. So you might want to look at some of the stuff that's offered through CSPA as well.
And I think I just saw, Rob, there that they're dedicating part of their monthly meetings to virtual as well now. So not only were they already doing that in terms of leveraging digital and inviting all these great guests, but I think they're targeting specific parts of their agenda for it now too.
All right, and that kind of wraps up this session. Our time is up, and we will stay on for questions if people have them. So again, you just have to go to the OCSB Tech Questions tiny URL to drop in a question. We'll respond to those right now as well. And if you really wanted this presentation, you could go to tinyurl.com/OCSB, capital T Tech, capital P Pres VA for Virtual Academy. We'll leave that up for a little while. So if you want to grab those, copy and paste them, take pictures, whatever you like to capture this, write them down with a pencil, then grab those now. But a camera might be a really quick way to grab those so that you can refer back to them in case you write something down wrong. And otherwise, we're watching that, the question and answer